All right, balancers. Today's guest is someone I've been really excited to have on the show. I think there are a lot of things that we share in common, not only from our career history, but I think to present day, what we're both trying to do with our respective podcasts, where we see ourselves as how we fit in the world of self-development and growth. And I really am inspired by a lot of the things that she speaks about. So I'm very excited to bring that to you guys on the show today. She's an investment banker turned growth mindset speaker and entrepreneur. She uses her platform to document the power of growth mindset in spite of time, age, social pressure, and perceived limitations, and across all spectrums of her life, personal, career, and fitness goals. She's the host of the What They Don't Tell Us podcast, founder of Untraceable, and partner in her latest venture, Mama Booza. My guest today is Tracy Harmoush, and I'm so excited to have you on, Tracy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Likewise. Now, we've been chatting for a good 15, 20 minutes already before we've aired, so I feel like there's so many things that we can get into. But I think where's a great place to start is your transition from investment banker to what you're doing now. I guess, can you just take us back to your time there, how you felt your potential was or wasn't being utilized, and why that actually prompted you to shift to look elsewhere?
Yeah. So I know a lot of people struggle with that. I still get questions about that, even though I've done the transition back in 2018. And so it's a big topic. And I think the biggest thing is that it's not so much about being in corporate that's made me feel claustrophobic per se, but I feel like when you're feeling boxed, when you feel like you're not reaching your potential, you're not doing the things you want to do, you're not allowed to add value outside of the box that they put you in, that's where it feels a bit difficult. And my transition was purely for that reason. I really felt boxed. I felt like I wanted to do A and I was told to do B. I kept moving around thinking that if I move to this department, maybe I'll be happier. If I maybe push to move to the London office, maybe I'll be happier. But none of that made me happy. It was almost like I kept chasing different things to feel fulfilled. And not just that, actually. I was traveling quite a lot and doing crazy, extravagant trips like gorge swing in Zimbabwe and like...
For work or personal?
Personal, like skydiving and random things just to feel... almost like a fix of like adrenaline or a rush, and every month I had to be on a trip, and I kind of thought that maybe I'm this great adventurer, and maybe I am, but you don't need to travel that much. You don't need to run away from what you're doing that often. And the reason why I kept escaping is because I felt like I need to get my fix from somewhere. And I only realized when I moved and I had to start working for myself that I didn't travel for like a year or two. But I was so fulfilled on a day-to-day basis. There was such a different feeling to being like clock watching when I'm sitting at the desk, waiting for my next trip, booking my trip online when I have nothing to do on the desk, versus being so drowned in my own business right now that I don't have time to think of a trip, and I don't even want to travel because I'm so excited about what I'm doing. I just want this to launch. I want this to grow. So that's key. Whether you're sitting on a corporate desk or whether you're working for yourself, it's really feeling fulfilled with what you're doing. Not passion. I mean, passion doesn't pay the bills necessarily, but just feel like you're adding value, you're growing, you're learning, you have mentors around you. Being fulfilled is quite important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think sometimes people speak about finding what you love, right? And it's like you jump out of bed every day loving what you do. And I think we're both sitting in a place where we have the contrast between having a 9-to-5, more corporate style job, and then having something we actually love. What I want to say is, I think the difference is you're not getting out. I mean, I certainly don't get out of bed all the time, like loving what I do. And I'm so excited for that day. You know, life happens. You go through different phases, ebbs and flows. But the key is that I think if you zoom out and look at the difference, like for you, you're not looking for the next trip. You don't want to take time off. I can really, really resonate with that. Like for me now, taking time off is like I'm taking time away from something I'm trying to build, right? But I definitely don't have that same feeling towards my 9-to-5. So I think just having that shift in perspective, like they say, I heard this really beautiful quote, and it was like, try and build a life that you don't need to take a break from, or that you're not trying to run away from. Sorry. I think we need breaks, and breaks they serve their place, but that you're not trying to run away from. So obviously your monthly travel was quite an extreme version of that. How do you think, like through people you've interviewed or colleagues you've worked with, or just in your experience, how do you think people generally engage in that escapism that could maybe be signs that they're like just trying to feel something outside of work? Maybe could, like, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are there any things that you think are obvious that people may be engaging in that are clear signs they're not fulfilled in what they're doing?
Look, if I were to compare myself to the guys on the desk that I was working with, it almost made me feel sad that I would watch them so excited about trading and what we were doing on the desk and putting a new structured product together for this new client and reading a book on that structured product. So to know that I didn't feel any of that, I didn't care to do that near the end. And all I wanted to do was just finish my damn job. I wanted to get out. That's a sign.
Yeah,
I mean,
we want to do the bare minimum.
like, I'm just like, what are you really gonna, like, I don't care about this conversation. Like, a lot of times I would feel like, why are we talking about this outside of working hours when we're having a drink on the bar? Or why are we working on the structured product and you're so excited about it and he's reading through all the contracts? Like, and I'm just like, okay, there's a problem here because I don't care to do that. I just want to do the bare minimum. Feeling like you're doing the bare minimum, that's a sign. I used to be so sad when I'd leave my trips. I would cry when I would leave my trips. By the time I got back to the desk, I'm just like, it's just like a log on my chest. Like, why am I still here? I would feel, I would travel, let's say in the summer, and I remember being around my friends that were all doing their own thing that they actually liked, be it corporate or not. And they would talk with such passion. They had light in their eyes when they're talking about work. And when they would ask me, how's work? I'm like, it's good. Change subject. Now, if somebody tells me how's work, I can go on and on. So I think there has to be some element of care and of interest. And if you're feeling that mundane clocking in and out, it really is not healthy because you don't want to learn more. You'll be stagnant. You don't want to learn. You don't care to, you'll care to do the bare minimum, which will eventually get you fired. And then you'll feel upset about being fired. It will take a toll on your self-worth. By the time you want to interview for somewhere else, you're also going to feel like, okay, I'm caught in this rat race. So it really doesn't work for anybody. It's not fair to your bosses. It's not fair to your company. And it's not fair to you for you to be giving the bare minimum. And when you feel like you're really just doing that, try to find something that will at least make you feel a bit more of a drive. And again, I have to stress this. It's not about passion and it's not about corporate versus entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a shit show if you don't have the strength for it. It's very difficult. And I'm only in it right now because I have a long-term goal with all the pain points, with losing money, with not making money for some months and then making money again. It's so volatile that it could take a toll on your mental health. It really can. And unless you really have that focus, that vision that, okay, I'm going to push through it, sometimes it is a better idea to have the safety of corporate. A lot of times, actually, it is a better idea. Your insurance is covered. You have lawyers and legal teams and accountants and everybody paying your salary on time. It's safe. You have 25 days. You can travel if you want to. It's really safe and it's good. But at least if you're doing that, pick the thing that is going to allow you to learn from someone, to have a mentor that's going to allow you to grow and elevate, because you can take all those with you when you want to do your thing later. I mean, I'm sure you realize this as well. It doesn't feel like I have lost time when I was in finance. A lot of my skill set, my structure, how I think, how we're both talking, how we like to put the structure together. I learned all of this in corporate. It taught me discipline. It taught me structure. It taught me working long hours. You take a lot of those with you. It's never wasted time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I always say you can never regret any relationship, experience, job, anything, because you would not be in the exact position you are right now if it wasn't for those things. That feeling though of when you're everything you were describing, the heaviness, the sense like your potential is not being fulfilled, that level of unmotivation, I find it really dangerous, because I'm sitting here with a job. I'm working as a lawyer. I have my side things. I've got an ecom business and this podcast. When I get in those moments and I feel that way, it taints the energy I have to put into other things. So managing that and either finding a way to reframe it, or, you know, if it's that bad for anyone listening, like finding a new environment that you can put yourself in, I think is really important, because then it doesn't even have to be other jobs or businesses or things you're building. It could even be your relationships, your health. Like the energy you have to show up for those things is tainted, I feel, by the heaviness of that dissatisfaction. Because when you think about it, like the majority of our time is spent as in a working week, really. And if you're an entrepreneur, it's unlimited hours as well, like 24/7. So for anyone in that position right now where they don't even know what that next thing could be, I mean, I feel very grateful. I know what it feels like to you know, the podcast and the wellness space and self-growth, documenting that, learning from others. It's something I'm interested in. It's something I'm passionate about. But I've had a lot of conversations with listeners, with people who are like, I want to do something else, but I don't know what that is. How did you find what your other thing was, or what advice do you have for people who are looking?
That sounds exactly like me, because when people were telling me, Trace, why are you still in finance if you don't want to be there? My answer was always, because I have no idea what else I'm good at. I had no passion. I had nothing that I was particularly interested in. And when you're drowning in your job and you're working long hours, you don't have time to think of what you want to do and what you're passionate about. You probably don't even have time to test the things that you're passionate about. So I think passion comes from trying something, whether you like it or not. When you realize that you're going back to that thing, you're getting good at it, you build some confidence when you get good at it. And when your confidence starts building because of the work you're putting in, it kind of generates that inner passion. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, I can keep going. I can keep going. You have a sense of purpose, which gives you passion. So it's not the other way around. Most people think I need to be passionate first, and then I can figure out how I can make money from my passion. I believe that happens very, very, very rarely with people that have specific talents or that were doing something since they were kids. Fine, you're passionate about something. But it's quite important to realize that it starts with you trying something, being uncomfortable with that trial. I mean, let's talk about my journey quickly. Calisthenics. I mean, I was browsing on Instagram while I was sitting on my finance job at people doing calisthenics, doing handstands, doing flips, and thinking, I wish I can do that. Did I care so much about it? No, I didn't really care. But when I left finance and I started I took up a calisthenics course and I took a class and I started going day in, day out. I was really terrible at the beginning. When I got good, I realized that, shit, okay, I could keep going. I think I want to do more of this. Let me see how much I can push myself. Let me see if I can teach somebody. And then when I taught someone, they actually nailed it. I'm like, I actually can teach this. So now let me take a course so I could be eligible to teach. And from there, it grew from teaching privately to teaching a workshop to building an app to working on wellness concepts, wellness festivals. So you have to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. Did I want to teach one-on-one forever? No. Did I want to coach? No. But I wanted to go into the wellness space. And I only realized I cared about the wellness space because I took that first step and I tried calisthenics for the first time when I didn't really care about it.
Yeah. I think that's actually really good advice, because I think traditionally and often we're always like, oh, what am I passionate about? What am I interested in? That's our starting point. Mm-hmm. But really, if you just start trying things out, and I'll give you an example of something I've done recently. On the weekends, I was like, I just need to do something that's separate to this, like this being on energy of working on the podcast and working on my job and working on my ecom business. I just need something that's just more for me, that's a bit slower. So I love ceramics. Every time I travel, especially Greece, don't even get me started. I always buy extra luggage. I love ceramics. So I was like, there's a studio around the corner from our place. Dubai has some great spots. So I just went and tried it, and I was so bad at it. But I went for a few weeks straight and got better. Now I'm starting to like bring little bits and pieces home. So I can resonate with that journey. And yes, for me, maybe that started out with like, oh, I like having really cute coffee mugs or bits and pieces for my house. But was I passionate about art? No. Would I say I'm artistic? Absolutely not. So I think and also one thing you said that's really, really important is you're going to be uncomfortable. Like there is no getting around it. You're going to be uncomfortable if it's outside of your comfort zone, if you've never done it before. It's just that like if you think about the brain and the way it operates, it's there to protect you. So if you're doing something that's not familiar, which is not safe, so it's not in your comfort zone, it's going to be uncomfortable. But once you start doing it, you break through that discomfort. It becomes comfortable. It becomes, oh, I've been here before. You know, I've been to that gym studio before. I've been to that art studio before. And you slowly make it more comfortable. So I think those are really good points. Like, don't necessarily start with a passion and just accept that it's going to be uncomfortable. Like, you have to be a beginner if you're going to try something new.
Let's talk about like this podcast, for instance, my podcast. I never thought I'd podcast, but it started with me going online on Instagram and talking to the camera. Did I look like an idiot doing so? Did I feel like an idiot? Absolutely. It was so awkward at the beginning for all of us. I mean, when this whole social media thing happened, if you just scroll back on my Instagram and look at my first posts, I mean, it's embarrassing. But when I got good at it, I started liking it. At the beginning, it was just almost forced. I have to, but I want to grow on my page. And to grow on my page, I need to do this. And then eventually it got me to having a podcast. How did that start? Because I had to try something uncomfortable first.
Yeah.
Most people think, okay, I can never start a podcast. I don't know how to talk. Okay. Start talking. If you want to get good at talking, start talking.
Yeah.
Talk to the camera by yourself. Talk on an interview. You have to try the things that make you uncomfortable if you want to do something. A big one for me is woodwork. And I know this because I know the cycle of now. You have to try the thing first to eventually get passionate about it. I know at some point in time, maybe when I have kids, maybe when I'm bored of the podcast, I'm going to get into woodwork. I'm going to get into this thing where I'm going to design my house. I'm going to kind of do it myself with my hands because I'm watching other people saying, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. I save a lot of videos and I feel like a feeling. I'm like, wow, that's cool. I really wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Most people would say, but I can't do it. So let's move on. Or take the damn course.
Book the online class.
Book the
Just
class.
do it.
Book it. You may hate the course. Never a waste of money. You learn something new. And then never come back to it if you hate it. But just book the course. You're not going to start off anything good.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say you will learn that you like it and you'll keep going, or you'll learn that you don't like it, and that kind of squashes that curiosity that you had. But either way, if there's a slight interest, and that's actually good because I feel like a lot of us will resonate with what we are drawn to online, like what types of content, what types of videos. I love like home renovation stuff too. Maybe the ceramic is my small intro segue in.
Exactly. But you know, kids are lucky these days, Erica. They're so lucky because back in our day, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but back in
28.
my day, 28. Okay. So almost back in our day, there was no internet with options of people showing us all these different things that you can do.
Yeah, the exposure was...
I mean, I had to either I have to take a business course, or I need to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. Right now, we kind of reiterate that. Everybody from my generation says, yeah, you can either be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. I'm pretty sure Gen Z never have that language. They don't need to say those things because their parents don't use those on them anymore because they have optionality. There's so much they're looking at right now. I can be a pianist that works with a DJ to kind of create my own. Well, that's cool. I could do this, home renovation, like we're talking about. That's cool. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. You have so much option right now, so much visibility that it's easy for you to make decisions. I can go to the Amazon and document like animal. Like, who would have thought about that in my time? Never. It was not a thing. There's so many ways to make money right now, and instead of just watching people do it and feeling sorry for yourself that you're not doing it, or you don't know how, or you don't know if you're passionate about it, give it a shot.
Yeah. You can definitely lean into what you're interested in. And I think for anyone currently having the thought of, but there's already people doing it, like there's too many, I can't do it. What's different about you is you. Like, think about all the people you listen and follow, like you're drawn to them as a person. So you can never say there's too many fashion bloggers or too many chefs cooking online, because you're your own distinguishing factor.
Absolutely.
But couldn't agree more. I'd love to ask you, this is kind of more in the vein of what the heart of this podcast is about, which really is exploring life balance. Now, my whole dilemma with the term work-life balance came from this very kind of blueprint approach to balance, in a way where I feel a lot of us were talking about work-life balance as this thing we couldn't achieve. It was like, I don't have work-life balance because of X, Y, Z. And when I really took a step back and thought about it, I had a couple of issues. I was like, first of all, work and life are not 50-50. Like if we're realistic with ourselves, work takes up majority of our time. And then I also thought for a lot of us, work and life are a bit of a hybrid, you know, like what people do in their work, they love, it's a part of their life, it's a part of their day-to-day. So it's not necessarily this exact split. And then I also didn't love the whole segregation of work and non-work. Like that's not life to me. So my approach to balance is we've got our health, we've got our relationships, and we've got our fulfillment. And I specifically didn't call it work because work is one part of what fulfills you. You know, your passions, like you could be a woodwork one day, whatever it is. People are full-time mothers, like that is so fulfilling, and that is work as well. So when I look at these three categories, balance to me is my own unique combination of any of those, and yours is going to look very different. And not only that, at different moments in my life, that's also going to shift for me because my priorities in each of the areas change. And so my idea of balance will change. And this really helped me because I'm quite an ambitious and driven person. And so I could spend all weekend working on a project, and some people may look at that and say, you know, that's not balance. But for me, it comes down to saying, okay, what are my ambitions? What are my goals? And then how do I make my priorities, which is my balance, so that I can achieve what I want to achieve, not the other way around, which I think sometimes is I need to make enough time for my life and work, which I think sometimes put ambitious people in a bit of a crossroads because they're like, oh, I'm not paying enough attention to my health because I'm so driven. So the point of me kind of sharing this with you is I'm really curious because I feel you also come from the perspective of health being so important. But then when you're also very driven, it's like making that a priority becomes even more important. But I think sometimes it slips away from some people when they're just so laser focused. So how do you kind of balance that ambition with your priorities and the things that matter most?
I like what you said about fulfillment. And I think when people are trying to achieve work-life balance, the idea here is to achieve success. Because if you have a work-life balance, you've kind of reached success. But what's success really? And that definition to me is having a balance across different elements in your life. One of it can be in your relationships. You know, you have enough time and energy given to the relationships in your life that matter, the people that support you, that are around you, that love you, that have raised you. So that element kind of needs to be tackled. You feeling fulfilled in what you're doing, whether it's being a mother, whether it's working on your passion project, whether it's being an entrepreneur, whether you're in corporate. You know that you have some sort of fulfillment of self-growth, progress, learning new things, skills that you're picking up. This is how you kind of elevate in life and how you keep your confidence. And I always say this, confidence will only follow you if you continue to be impressed with yourself. You know, you picked up something new, you learned something new, you have a new passion or a new project, you read something interesting. Become interesting to keep your confidence. Most people lose their confidence because they feel like they've plateaued. And the only person that's allowing you to plateau is yourself. Even if it means reading extra books because you're not working, read more books, become an interesting person. That's great. So on that department as well. And if we're talking about work-life balance, I think the old school way was for people like you and I, or when I was back in corporate thinking, okay, I have to sit in this job, but then I need my balance and I need to finish this, cut and stop. Okay, this is where the camera stops rolling and now I can go and play. That's wrong. The idea of work-life balance, I don't like the word, I don't like the phrase actually, because it takes away from what you really should be doing, trying to be successful in managing life and keeping your mental health intact. When you're reaching burnout because you're really putting a lot of time in your work, that's not work-life balance. That's how we should think of it. Okay, I'm burning out. It's taking a toll on me. I'm not sleeping well. I don't eat properly because I'm kind of distracted with this thing. If we just look at what makes you a balanced person, it doesn't have to be between work and life. You could be really into what you're doing, but you have structure, right? So you put all your energy in let's say working on your passion project. So what you're doing with that is maybe 80% of your time right now is working on this. You have to cut out some relationships. That could be totally fine because you're picking right now what's most important to you that's keeping you centered and balanced, and you're sleeping early, you're not partying, naturally you're cutting out your social life, but you're keeping the 2, 3, 4 people around you right now that will help you, that will push you, that will drive you into what you want to do. You're keeping a good relationship with your partner, but all of your energies in this specific thing right now, but you're doing all the right things that are keeping you focused and centered. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can have 80% of your time on one thing. It doesn't mean you're lacking in the other, as long as you have your center.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And the minute you start losing your center, it makes you feel like, okay, hold on, maybe this is not healthy. I think your body speaks to you. It really does.
Yeah.
People don't listen. And if you don't stop when you should stop, your body will force you to stop.
Absolutely.
So it's really on you to kind of listen and understand. If you have insomnia, you're over scrolling, you're not sleeping properly, your body's telling you something, dude. You're take it easy.
Yeah.
If you're not going to stop, I'm going to make you stop.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. I think what you've just kind of described is what I talk about as your non-negotiables. So I think where I went wrong in the past, and potentially it came from that more traditional look at balance, was I was looking at the areas of my life like juggling balls. And that made me really stressed out half the time, because I'm like, I got 2 hands, I got 5 different things to do. How do I make this all work? Where I shifted, and what's really worked for me, is looking at these different areas like gardens. Now, what I say all the time is that, like different garden beds, there's different seasons. So you always hear that, something's happening at work, you've got a big project. That's the season for work to be on, right? Or you're building a passion project. It's a work season. Maybe something, God forbid, happens in your health, and that becomes a health season, right? So our gardens have different seasons, but at the end of the day, they need some bare essentials to be maintained. And that's how I get everyone to kind of look at balance, which kind of just fits in with what you shared. So for me, it's saying, okay, this year I'm working on this thing. What are my non-negotiables in my health, in my relationships, and in my fulfillment? And as long as I can keep those things and like try not to go overboard, for anyone listening, I will also put a link. I did like a 20-minute workshop on this on YouTube. It's free. You can kind of go through. I'll take you through how to find out your non-negotiables. But basically, if you work out, okay, these are my health non-negotiables. For me, it's 8 hours of sleep, drinking enough water, meal prepping my food, and getting some sun every day. These are the things I know that are going to give me the energy to do the things I want to do. But I think aligning those non-negotiables with your goals is the important part.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we say, I need to do all these things, but then you have these big goals, and realistically you need more time. You need to cut out those relationships. You have to make those hard decisions. But when you don't align the two, like, what does my life have to look like to support this? And I think when you cut out any of those areas as well, that for me anyway leads to imbalance. So I think just finding a way to identify what those non-negotiables are that support your goals is a really important way to kind of keep the balance.
Absolutely. So assume it's really spot on, actually. So assume you want to launch your clothing brand. Okay, you don't know where to start. You know that you're going to have to work long hours, and you're sitting in corporate doing your full-time job. So what are you going to have to sacrifice? Maybe a lot of the acquaintances and the social life and the partying. It sucks, but it's a sacrifice that you're willing to take. What is it going to take to sustain you working on both your corporate career and a passion project on the side without burning out? It will mean that you need to sleep by 10 p.m. It will mean 7 to 8 hours of sleep so that you could feel laser focused to be able to do both, because it's going to be tough. It would mean eating well, cognitively, to be in the right place, not to be munching and, going down a rabbit hole, feeling sluggish, drinking water, like you said. So this is what's going to help me sustain to reach that. Now, work-life balance for you at that moment in time is exactly the structure.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be, I need to do all of these things. I need to also be able to party with my friends, and also be able to travel twice a year, and to get a summer holiday in, and to be able to go home for Christmas. You might have to sacrifice some of these things, but it's okay, because like you said, seasonally, this is your season for launching your brand. Now, when that brand is launched within a year, you have another season where maybe you're more relaxed. So at this point in time, you can have more of a social life. You can book your trip. You don't have to have everything at once. I think most people are striving to take on everything at once. I want to be amazing at all of these things. But that can't work. This is when burnout happens. And this is when depression happens, because you're looking around saying, but look, they're all traveling and I'm not traveling. But if you had set your intention from the get-go that this is not on my priority list right now, and I will be sacrificing this because right now launching my clothing brand is more important, then you know your intention was set from the get-go. Nothing is going to phase that. You have to have that laser focus.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all comes with intention and alignment. I heard this thing called JOMO, which is the joy of missing out. And I think when you get clear on your priorities, you move out of FOMO into JOMO. I have to say, I'm in a season right now. I actually would say I'm an extrovert more. Traditionally, I would say I'm an extrovert. I'm now a retired extrovert. I'm in my introvert era because of the things I'm trying to do, of what I'm trying to create, me and my partner together, me individually, me in terms of the kind of life I want. And I've just found all this like love of time on my own. Before I used to hate my own company. I would never spend time on my own. I would have 400 acquaintances. They'd be on rotation for coffees. And I enjoyed that. That served a purpose at that moment in time. But I think moving here has helped me. Well, it's been like a forced detox, to be honest. But it has shown me like that maybe I was prioritizing things that I didn't need to. But absolutely, you're going to have to sacrifice. You have to get clear, and doing this kind of balance check-in with yourself. Okay, what are my goals this year and what are my priorities is really important to actually make that a sustainable pursuit, because otherwise you set the goal and then you either don't have time for it or you start missing out on the things that actually give you energy to achieve that goal in a like fruitful way. So
I think a lot of the thing that a constant mistake or something I've relapsed in quite a few times is when I didn't know how to say no, especially to opportunity.
Yeah.
So the more you do, the more opportunity comes your way. So take that first step is something I would say. But when opportunity does come your way, if you take on every possible opportunity, because I just want another lump sum of money, but this sounds interesting, I want to do it too. I've done that a few times, and I'm telling you, it is probably the biggest mistake, because I end up wasting months trying to do the 3-4 big opportunities all at the same time and barely moving forward in any of these 4, and feeling sad and depressed and annoyed that I haven't made any big moves. I had 4 big opportunities, but none of them were big strides. There were baby steps in each. But if I had said no, and it would be a really hard no, and then I used what we talked about, understanding where my focus is, what work-life balance looks like right now in this season, and I stuck to this one, I probably would have been in a completely different space, because this specific goal this season is catered to just this opportunity because it's the biggest one. I can do a little small things around it, but if you want to really be successful in something, you have to have a lot of energy and time put in one big opportunity.
Yeah.
And you have to be a master at saying no to everything else, including big trips and big parties and something that's going to make you sluggish for 3 days afterwards. Just say no. That's quite important. I have to remind myself over and over again that don't take on everything, Trace. You can't.
Yeah, that was something I really struggled with too. And I think the reason I found it so difficult, that is to say no and have those boundaries, was because I didn't know what I was saying no for. So saying no to me felt a bit random, like, oh, okay, I don't really want to do this, but I don't really have anything else. So why not? But if you have that clarity, it means the world of a difference. Like now when I go out, if we go out for dinner, we've got a big group of friends here and they want to kick on. They always kick on. We've now, my fiance and I, we have this, in the group we're known as one event wonders, because we just never kick on, because that means I'm, going to be drinking, which ruins my sleep. I'm not going to be getting in bed at 10 p.m. So like for right now, I think getting clear like on what it is that's going to serve you and help you reach and achieve what you want to achieve. And again, that doesn't have to look like this idyllic. What I'm really trying to break down is balance is not everything's equal. It's not, I'm not working crazy hours. Like that is not my definition of balance. I sometimes do that involuntarily because I love like editing or what I'm listening to or what I'm learning. It's not about the time, it's about the energy and it's about the quality of it. So,
and to zoom out a little bit and to look at your lifespan as what am I going to balance in this lifespan? It's not what am I going to balance this year? No, it's what if I take a step back and 40 years would have passed. In those 40 years, how did balance look like for me? In my 20s, I kind of did this. In my 30s, I focused more on that. I had children by the time I was raising kids around this time, and then I did my whole retirement plan on this time. So balance really should be when you zoom out in your life and what it looked like throughout the whole lifespan, and not really stress yourself with thinking, how am I going to balance all of those things in 1 year?
Yeah. Often we look at like where we want to end up. Like I find this sometimes, I have this tendency, especially if I'm starting something new, you set your standard as where you want to end up, like where the ultimate dream, the ultimate goal is when like it's day one, which is fine. Like I mean, I have big aspirations for myself, and I think anyone that's a high achiever has that tendency, but just to bring yourself back to reality and remind yourself that's what you're working towards. You don't need that now, because that just creates this unrealistic standard of, it's like the perfectionism kind of standard that you can't achieve right now. Like that takes time. And those people you're looking up to or that lifestyle, it takes time to build.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you now, you talked about something on your Instagram, which is one of these things that I've been thinking about for a long time, but haven't put words into the universe, or like haven't articulated it as of yet. And I think you just expressed it really, really well. You were talking about how as a society, we are missing kind of the mark by not leading with people's skills and knowledge, and by focusing on their gender, especially when it comes to why people are elected for certain roles or titles. And I mean, I'd love for you to share it, because you honestly articulate it so, so well.
Okay, so I mean, this has been sitting with me for quite some time. I mean, now we moved into this new era where we're all of a sudden debating gender. That's a different topic. But even before then, it was really important for me not to feel like someone gave me something or I got a certain position because I'm trying to fit into this, debate of like, okay, no, but we need to kind of be inclusive. So let's just put Tracy here because she's a girl and we need a girl on the team. Let's just make sure we promote this girl, or, oh, we need men in this department, so let's just bring a man. I feel like as a society, we're so focused on playing the gender flag that we forget to work on our skills. We forget to be the most eligible person for a position. It is much more important for me to fight the fight of wanting my gender to be on that table than it is for me to have my skill set so damn good, so flawless, that everybody has elected for me to get on that table. Everybody's so proud to be mentored by me or to be working alongside me because I have the skill sets for it. If we each start looking inwards and thinking, you know what, I want to be the best at that job. I want to be on the CEO's chair. The ball game changes entirely. Your focus is on, what am I going to learn? How am I going to get promoted? What are the skill sets that I need? As opposed to fighting the fight for the next 20 years of, just because I'm a woman, I didn't get promoted. Okay, let me show them. I'm a woman and I want to get that job. And I'm going to talk about how no one's promoting me because I'm a woman. Why are you putting your energy into that? Why are you spending your energy talking about how you don't have something because you're a woman, instead of, and it may be true, look, society is not perfect. Maybe you never got a job because you're a woman. But imagine you park that. You don't give that time or energy. You don't manifest that even further. And then you say to yourself, you know what? Let me show them what I can do. And work your damn ass off. Be the best there possibly is, because honestly and truly, we're in 2024. Nobody tell me that you cannot get a job if you're truly the best at it because you're a woman. That doesn't happen anymore. There are women in big positions and big spots everywhere. Now, it may be harder. We may have to fight a little more. But if you're fucking good at it, you're going to get the job. And maybe it's not this one because they gave you a hard time because life's unfair. Maybe it's the next one. But I feel like when you put your energy in the right place, you manifest what you want and you get that damn job. I mean, it's worked across the board for myself and for many other people. Why can't it work for you?
I think it's an interesting question, because obviously there's two sides of the coin here. It's the way society and maybe your job, the way they kind of talk about culture or people and their roles, etc. And then there's the way we're looking at it ourselves. And I think if we just, all we can control is ourselves at the end of the day, our internal journey and what we're putting out there. So I think if we just take this, right, and we digest it, I think it's just an interesting one to sit with, because I think as a society, we just love labels and titles. Anything that can kind of box us in or explain something that saves us from doing the work. Yeah, or justify, or like we don't have to look inward and do any further work because I'm a woman or because I'm a lawyer or because I'm a, you know, it takes the onus off you to actually work out what are my skills, what do I want to work on, what do I want to strengthen, what am I that's all hard work. It's all uncomfortable, but it's the work that's necessary if you want to be a pioneer, if you want to be a leader in the space and what you're doing. And I love that you've spoken about it in this way, because it's just reminded me and it's brought the conversation to my mind of, you know, you're in this role because you deserve it, not because you're a woman or a man, right? And that is so empowering to me. It's such an empowering way to look at your place. Speaking
of empowering, that's why I talked about that, because around Women's Day, around Women's International Month, we have this, I mean, I get invited to talks all the time, and a lot of the language that is used is, us women, we need to stick together. We need to empower each other. Women, sisterhood, we need to. And all I think is, no, we all as a society need to empower each other and need to work alongside of each other, because guess what? If us women are like doing our own thing and our own clique, and we're not really being inclusive ourselves with men feeling like they're involved in a society as a whole to grow, then we're creating the segregation. We are creating the segregation. So we're doing our own matriarchy here. So what is much more empowering is when I have the men and the women around me vouching for me. And if I want to constantly talk about women empowerment, the men around me are going to be like, okay, I don't feel included in this, so I'm just not going to get involved. I mean, I never use that language. I always talk about empowerment in general. Like, maybe I don't use the word empowerment, but I realize that what I do is probably inspiring in the sense of I inspire people for a growth mindset, to be stronger, to have, to be free thinking. So maybe that's the version of empowerment. But I talk to people. If you notice, I never direct my conversation to only women, because it's important to have empowered men around you as well. Men that are vouching for you, that want you to do great, and vice versa. If the man is better suited for something, I would be all behind him, pushing my ass off for this guy to get that job because he's better suited. I'm not going to stand behind women just because they're women. I'm going to stand behind the most eligible person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gender is one of those things that's, you know, highly debatable in our day and age. But at the end of the day, for me, who a person is not their gender. It's not whether they're a man or a woman or identifications or anything beyond that, to be quite honest. I think the conversation there is missing around looking inward at who are we, what makes us valuable, what makes us high value people. And it's actually got nothing to do with our gender.
I've never thought of my gender when I think of the things I like about myself. I mean, obviously, I'm very proud to be a woman and all, but every time I think of like where I want to be, the skills I need to work on, how I need to elevate, you know, what makes me high value, it's everything that I'm thinking of internally about where I want to be, how I can grow, how I can be the best at something. I never put gender at the forefront.
Yeah, but you know why? Because all the things that you're thinking about and aspiring for, they're all human experiences. They're human qualities. We're all humans at the end of the day. And that's how we should be talking to one another. Who's the best human for this role?
100%. That's exactly it.
Yeah, no, but I love this conversation. I think it's an interesting one for people to think about. I just wanted to bring it to the show because I think it helps people. I think sometimes also, I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't this lack of opportunity for women. I'm sure in some parts of the world it still exists, and in some companies and cultures for sure, I'm sure it's still prevalent. But I think for you yourself to empower yourself, to not box yourself into that label, I think moves you out of like a victim mentality and more into empowerment.
That is exactly the point I was making, that it's not that it doesn't exist. It's not like you're lying. That, I mean, I'm pretty sure people are experiencing that. What's more important is not to give into it, not to be a victim of it, to take charge and control of yourself and to say, I'm not going to play this game.
Yeah.
I'm not playing this game. I'm going to play my own game, which is get to be the best possible person at this specific job or specific skill. End of story. Am I going to engage in this conversation and play your game? I'm not.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think a big part of this and like looking inward, working out who you are as a human and what value you have is spending a lot of time with yourself. I want to just bring up, you shared something where you were in a long-term relationship when you were a little bit younger. And when that relationship ended, you had spent a lot of time on your own. And now you're married in a new relationship. And I just wanted to ask you, now that you're in a relationship, do you still prioritize that alone time? And if so, how? I ask the question because I feel now I'm in a great relationship, but as I said, the last few years I've been spending a lot more time on my own. I think the person I'm with has also helped me embrace that. And I just wonder, like, do you feel there's an importance to that? Because I see a lot of people getting in relationships and almost just losing themselves. Again, if we talk about identities, like the relationship defines who they are and they lose themselves as a person. So have you kind of carried on or kept any of those things you had to learn when you were younger now that you're in a relationship again?
Look, I mean, in my past relationships, I didn't understand that balance. I think I've lost myself a lot, enjoying things that he enjoyed, thinking that I liked them, but I had never really cared. It was probably more of his thing. And, I only discovered that I was really riding his wave when I became single again. And I started realizing, hold on a second, do I like black and white movies? Do I like old movies? Do I like to travel alone? Or am I a big adventurer, or is it because I was going on his trips? And when I got lost with that and I couldn't really identify what my joys were, it scared me. And I thought to myself, never again. I have to really discover who I am as a person first. And the journey that I spent doing that, I was single for a long time before I met my current husband. And that journey really built so much confidence in me because I figured out what I like. I became attractive to other people, even more so than I thought I was, because, I feel like people read you, men read you, women read you, and your confidence oozes. You could tell if someone is calm and collected and confident, and you can tell if someone is like, edgy or riding another wave or, being part of the social group because inauthentic, or even like doing, sometimes I look at people I know, I'm like, what is she doing? Or what is he doing? Like partying all the time, going out with these random people that are random. And I'm like, that's not him or that's not her. But I know that it's a phase, they're a bit lost. That phase is the worst place to be because you really can't find your center in that phase. And I advise my friends when they're there, because I used to be there, I know the feeling, take a step back, be alone for a bit. And that alone time really makes you understand what you care about. Being bored makes you a little more creative. You have no other choice but to be a bit more creative. If you're sitting home on a Friday night, all your friends are out, guess what you have to do? You have to sit with your thoughts. And when you're sitting with your thoughts, something might spark. Like, what? Do I like writing? Let me write something. Let me write a bit or journal a bit. When you journal, something comes out, you get an idea. Boredom is so damn important. And
Great for curiosity.
Yeah. Boredom, when you're bored, you end up building in boredom. You don't build in distraction. And most people are looking for distraction, looking for someone else to kind of lead what their joys are when you're in a relationship. So now that I moved into my new relationship as an adult, and because this is so important for me, I love doing things with my husband, and we have a lot of shared goals. Don't get me wrong. I think it's important to kind of shift as well to have shared goals so that there's longevity in your relationship. You can't just have separate goals.
100%.
Then you'll lose each other. So having shared goals is quite important. But I'm also very weary about what he needs and what I need. And I know he needs some alone time. He needs some guy time. He needs space when he's working. He can't work next to me, sitting right in front of me all day long. And although because we're both entrepreneurs, we sometimes work from home, sometimes work from coffee shops. And a lot of time I detach. I move to a coffee shop. He takes the bedroom, I take the living room. The office room, I take the living room. So we have some alone time. His meditation, his journaling, he does it alone. These things are quite important because it keeps him connected and centered. It keeps me connected and centered. And then we meet when we want to meet. So when you get lost a little bit in your situation, if you don't know what you want, it's because you're really kind of allowing somebody else to guide your happiness, to guide your interests. Alone time allows you to keep that focus on yourself. When you're alone, you're like, okay, what am I going to do now that I'm alone? He's not here. So if he's not here, what am I going to do for myself, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then having that prior relationship, because I have a similar experience, and maybe when I was 18, relationship I was in, it was very much like everything is together. And I think when you're young and you're still working yourself out, and you know, you just kind of fall into a routine again. I had a similar experience. I was like, don't really know if this is what I want and what I want for the rest of my life. But then having that alone, well, I mean, I actually didn't have that much single time. I'm kind of one of those people that's always been in relationships. But I have to say, the relationship I'm in now, when I first got into it, same thing. He loved his time with his guys, his own time, and he had very good boundaries. Not that he didn't want to spend time with me, but it was kind of like, we're together, but I've got my own life too. And at first I thought he didn't care about me. Like, he's just not really interested. He's like half in. But now we've been together for 8 years, and he's taught me the importance and value, and kind of given me the space, I guess, to be my own person. Because if you can be your own person and nurture yourself first, you're actually stronger as a part of a relationship. Like, I look at a relationship now like we're in a team building life, right? That's our project. We're in it for life. But we need to come to the table energized, ourselves, authentic, aligned. Like, you're working on your stuff, I'm working on my stuff, then we've got like combined things. But if I don't have my own stuff, then I don't have my own outlet, and you end up just hinging on each other, and you have everything together, and it can become quite toxic and like muddled.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to ask you about it was I feel in the past, and maybe people listening feel like that's unhealthy, like not doing everything together, or not having alone time, or just not being sure what that looks like tangibly in a relationship. And I just think it's really, really important to still have time on my own.
So if I'm trying to think deeper into how this works for myself and my husband, there's a few layers to that. So it's not a one size fits all. It really depends on the dynamics of your relationship. If you have ultimate trust, love, a lot of affection, a lot of attention, a lot of interest from your partner, then that alone time becomes so much easier. Because when you do connect, there's quality, there's interest, there's, you know, you're kind of playful with each other, you're young together, you're kiddie together. That connection for me on a day-to-day basis is very, very important.
Me too.
Because if I don't have that with him and we're detached, and a few days pass where I'm really feeling detached from him, it doesn't sit well with me. I don't feel good, and he knows it. And I tell him 2-3 days, I'm like, baby, I feel like you're lost. I can't see you. Where are you? And he'll be very like, well, this is another important thing. I know they say communication is important, but it's so important. It's not a joke. It's quite important, because you start losing each other when you're not sharing what you're thinking.
Yes.
I get this when he's detached, if he's afraid, if he's going through a rut, I come to him, I'm like, baby, I feel I lost you the past 3 days. The connection, the kiddiness, the joy, the playfulness, I lost it. What's going on? He'll say, I'm feeling so. I lost this project. I'm not feeling really good with this family situation. So we talk about it. And now I feel good, because I know it's not me. He's going through a thing, and I respect that he's going through a thing. Sometimes on the receiving end, I'll feel the exact same way. I'm not feeling like I'm getting the right opportunities. I lost opportunities. I don't feel good. I feel low. I feel down. If I'm not sharing that with him and I'm doing my own thing, it changes the dynamics of our relationship. So I'm very comfortable and confident to be on my own, and he likes to be on his own in specific certain moments in time, because we have that solid connection. So if you're alone, but that connection doesn't exist, you lose each other.
Yeah.
So it's not about being alone. It's about keeping your connection all the time, and then feeling safe to detach and to be alone. It's not safe when you're detaching and there's no real connection in the center.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that careful balance between space for yourself, so you can be authentic to who you are, and then space for the relationship, so you can bring that authenticity and connect with your partner's authenticity and create something together.
Right.
And I think just before we wrap up, the reason that's so important too is if we go back to the seasonality aspect, like now we're in a season where we're building, which means there's a lot of focused time. We're both working. He's working trading US time. I'm working a 9 to 5 here. Our schedules are completely opposite. And so we need to constantly communicate. We have a rule we do dinner together, non-negotiable. We play cards, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is. We talk about our day. That's our time. It doesn't have to be 5 hours every day. You know, it's just the small moments of connection. And weekends we have set, you know, Sunday mornings, Friday nights, you know, we have our time. But communicating is important because as your goals grow and change, it requires different things from you. And we spoke about our balance and factoring in your relationship, sharing that with your partner and creating your balance together is important so you can prioritize that time together. So yeah, it's not about just being alone or prioritizing that over the other. It's finding the way that works for both of you, but having that space where that's not absent from your life just because you're in a relationship is the one thing I kind of wanted to call out because I've been there and it feels very different.
100%.
Yeah. Tracy, I think we could go on and on for ages. I think you'll have to rejoin me for a part 2. But I love everything you're doing. I love what you've created. You're a big inspiration
Thank you.
for me. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I really love sharing all this information with you because I realized that we're really similar in so many ways. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening would probably think that like, oh man, I felt that too. I was there too. And it's nice to have these conversations because you get to really connect with people, whether they're behind a screen or whether it's like this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.